लुटाए, हम सर्वस्व लुटाए, हम सबको अपनाने वाले। आज जो पाया हमने पहले कभी नहीं था पाया, पाकर तुमको बाबा पाया, खुशियों का सरमाया। मन की ऐसी उच्च अवस्था, मन की ऐसी उच्च अवस्था, कैसे हम समझाए तुझ पर। हम सर्वस्व लुटाए, हम सर्वस्व लुटाए, हम सर्वस्व लुटाए, हम सर्वस्व लुटाए, हम सबको अपनाने वाले। करे तेरा गुण गान कि तुमने हमको गुणी बनाया, दिव्य गुणों के गुलदस्ते में तुमने हमें सजाया। गुणों के सागर के हम बच्चे, गुणों के सागर के हम बच्चे, गुण मूरत बन जाए तुझ पर। हम सर्वस्व लुटाए, हम सर्वस्व लुटाए, हम
All right, so yeah, big warm welcome to everyone and Sister Jayanti. And we're still in the Avyakt month, and so just and since Baba was talking about the powers, and my feeling always has been, Sister Jayanti, that one of the things that Baba did with the Dadis is he completely cleaned out their chit. And he made the core of them, their being, so strong, so powerful that, so if there was any opposition or insult or obstacle to face, there was just such an inner strength and in a core of faith and power and samarthi and shakti, as Baba has been saying, using these different words. And it is very attractive. I certainly, would like to become that. But just wanted to share a few stories on the basis of maybe how Baba led to that, and just wanted to share with everyone a few small stories, but how significant they are. So, for example, Baba would always say that children should not cry. Because Baba said that you are not widows, you are suhagan, which means that you are married to that one. And Baba said, if you cry, then you lose your inner strength. And the same was for eating in silence. Baba used to say, eat in silence, because again, if you come into words, you're losing your power. And then Baba would go around every night and Baba would check how the children were sleeping. And Baba could tell from...
Netleştirelim, öyle ayrılayım. Bir dakika sesinizi açmanızı istiyor.
Bilal, we can hear you. And Baba could tell from in Hindi we say gunt. So gunt is that pulse on the throat. So Baba would come by when they're sleeping, and then Baba said he could tell whether they are sleeping, whether they are dreaming, or whether they are really in Baba's remembrance. And then Baba would come round to check the feet of the children, and Baba would say, are the feet clean? Because the feet and the head are connected, or the feet and the cleanliness of the soul are connected. And Baba wouldn't like that children wore each other's slippers, even slippers, because Baba said that if you wear each other's shoes or slippers, then you catch that one's vibrations. And so really all the subtlety, maybe to us it's like being fastidious or picky, but you can see how through every dharna, Baba was teaching us a lesson. So yeah, Sister Jayanti, over to you.
Thank you. And yes, all the little things that happen and that Baba gave attention to are one thing. But just imagine being in a bhatti, not for a few days or a month, but for 14 years. And so the image that was carved out of the raw stone, they really were divine beings by the time they emerged from the bhatti and started to go out on service. And the power of their drishti was such that the first air souls took birth and became the foundation of service in Bharat and the rest of the world. And so, yes, Baba knew what he was doing absolutely when he chose these souls and put them together and created that bhatti. He knew that these were going to be the ones who were going to carry on the service of the yagya and the service of the world. And they would create others who could continue that same service till the end of the kalpa. So the whole journey is a very, very amazing one. And then, of course, the detail that Baba gave attention to. And this time, a phrase that kept jumping up at me was that the memories that you carry can be a blessing. So what are the memories that I carry? Have I let go of the memories of my Lokik birth and Lokik parents and Lokik things? And have I now kept in this little precious storehouse all the treasures that Baba's given me, but also the memories of the times of Madhuban with Sakar Baba, with Avyakt Baba? So Baba was seeing how all the children had emerged those memories on the 18th of January. And yes, even before the 18th, I think as you prepare for the 18th, those memories begin to emerge and come alive and are very, very powerful. But Baba was describing these memories as a blessing. And I'd never connected these two words together, that those precious memories are really a blessing. And so that's been a very lovely feeling I've carried in my heart since hearing that Murli. And so Baba was seeing how the memories have emerged in everyone's hearts and how they are singing the song of my Baba. And Baba is also singing the song of my sweetest children. In our hearts is Baba, and in Baba's heart are all the children. The ocean of love has merged us all into his love. And Baba saying that this is the day in which the children were given all rights, all powers. The father became unknown, incognito, and allowed the children to come visibly onto the world stage to play their role of the ones who were doing all the service and establishing the new world. And Baba said Baba became Karanhar, the one who works through others, and let the children be Baba Karavanhar, the one who works through others, and the children actually doing Karanhar, the ones who are engaged in that action. And so Baba handing over all rights and crowning the children with that responsibility of continuing the task of establishing the new world. And Baba also reminding us that it's not just the day of remembrance, the day of awareness, it's also the day of power. This word samrati that Baba kept using, vyarth, waste, smrit, the power. And Baba saying that this is the day in which you can experience all the spiritual powers, because the Almighty Father has given you all the powers. So you are the master almighty authorities. And from the day of your spiritual birth, your divine birth, you were given this property. And so just have this awareness of who you are. And in that awareness, you'll be able to experience the blessing of the power from Baba. And you feel yourself being filled with that power. And so if in that seat of awareness of who you are, the child of the Almighty, the Master Almighty Authority, stable on that seat of awareness, any power that you choose and need becomes available for you. And so, do you invoke the powers and feel that they're not coming to you? Well, it's probably because you haven't become the embodiment of that awareness of who you truly are. Just as if you, with a sincere heart of love, invoke Baba and you feel Baba's presence with you, in the same way, how come you're not able to invoke the powers? Invoke Baba and Baba's powers, and they're all there for you. But if you're not in that awareness of who you are, then you forget Baba and you forget that you have the power to invoke that authority of all the different powers. And then Baba also saying that when Baba gives you all these powers, how come there are times when it becomes number-wise and you don't experience these powers? And that is because there's a leakage. If there's a connection to the power station and there isn't that energy flowing, well, why not? Somewhere along the line, there's a breakdown or there's a leakage. And in this case also, the Father is saying, here you are, take all these powers, and yet we're not experiencing them. It's because through the day, at some point and some way, there's a leakage, there's waste. And so the energy is flowing out instead of flowing in. And it's a time when people are desperate for strength and all the powers. And so they're crying out that they want to have that strength. And I think since COVID days, people have realized that, they don't have that inner capacity to deal with situations. And so they know that they're very much lacking in spiritual power. Now, whether they use the word spiritual or not, maybe they don't, but certainly many people I know who have been friends for a long time but are not Brahmins, they will say to me, well, it's great to see how all of you are managing, but we are not managing so well. But that pure intention of serving everyone so that they can come closer to their parent definitely makes a huge, huge difference. And so this state of wastage and leakage, Baba's been talking about waste thoughts and waste time for quite a while. And so now in this Murli, Baba's saying, well, how did Brahma Baba deal with all of this? What Baba did was to hold a court every night, not a court of the children, but the court of his inner workers. And he would call the mind and say, hey, Chief Minister. Interesting that Baba gave that title of Chief Minister to the mind. So, hey, Chief Minister, what happened? Why did you not obey orders today? What went wrong? And then he would sometimes call the sanskars Why did you fluctuate? You're not meant to fluctuate. How come you didn't follow my orders? And so Baba would speak to his inner organs, but also the external senses, and want to find out, well, where is it that things slipped off the accurate path? And of course, if you keep doing that, if you keep checking, it becomes clear. And when it's clear and there's realization, then there's also the possibility of changing. And then Baba remembered Mama, that the children who were there in Madhvan at the time would remember the early days when Mama would hold court with the children, but also the children would ask Mama and say, Mama, can you give me a picture? And the picture would be twofold. On the one side, it would be the picture of today. Mama, tell me what's really going on inside myself. I don't know. But it would also then be, according to the effort of today, the picture of tomorrow. So they would be asking Mama for both pictures. And Baba said, in the heart-to-heart conversations that the children have with me, this is what they're doing. They're asking me for a picture. And what do you think a picture is for us today? The picture is the chart. And so can I, every night, hold court with all my subjects, all my ministers, all my physical senses, all my inner faculties. And as I hold court with them, I'll begin to understand where it is that I'm missing out, or where is it that I keep falling down. And I can then take power from Shiv Baba and sort it all out. So the chart that I keep is actually then a mirror for me, a mirror for now, but also a mirror for what my future holds, because both things are absolutely connected. You, of course, already know that. And then Baba said, but sometimes the mirror gets a bit fogged up. Sometimes there's a dirty mark on it, and so you can't see clearly. But at other times, it gets fogged up, when you're in the bathroom and there's hot water and the steam makes the mirror get steamed up, and then you can't see. And so what you have to do is to make sure that you don't allow the mirror to get steamed up. You make sure that you're in the right conditions to be able to see yourself in the mirror of the chart. And if you do that, then once you learn what's going on within yourself, you also are given the power to be able to shift it and change it. So this lovely expression of the mirror and the chart, and being able to have a picture of yourself for the future so that you know that you're on track. And then Baba asking us, well, when can you become Almighty Authority? Are you self-sovereigns today? And of course, when Baba asks the question, the majority, the gathering, always put up their hands. And Baba's saying that, well, are you truly self-sovereigns? Is everything under your control? Do you have that controlling power and ruling power? If you have it now, then yes, automatically you will have it in the future. If you don't have it now, then this question is very much related to the future. What I do now determines my reward for the future. And so can I see what it is I'm doing today? Am I in control of the physical senses, my eyes, my ears, my mouth, my tongue, my hands and my feet? Are my feet taking me into the wrong direction? And so when Baba's saying that, do I go in the company that's going to relate to me stories of the Ramayana and the Bhagavad, Baba's not talking about the scriptures there. Baba's talking about all the long, detailed stories that we get into about each other and situations that are totally taking me away from Baba, and I'm missing my track. And so can I tell my feet not to go in that direction of company that's going to be telling me the stories of criticism and gossip, and that's the Ramayana. The Ramayana is full of these stories. And so Baba wasn't talking about a satsang, but Baba was talking about the false stories that children spin. And of course, every time each one passes on a story to another, there's more and more embroidery added on. And each story becomes more and more complex. And so Baba's alerting us to the fact that going off here and there isn't necessarily something which would be of benefit, but ask yourself the question, is this going to bring me closer to Baba or not? And then through all of this, Baba also saying that if you say, well, not now, later, Baba hasn't told us a date of destruction yet, but Baba isn't going to. Neither for yourself personally, the departure time is known, nor for the world coming to that state, it's not known. Yes, we keep seeing emergencies. These are the rehearsals that keep happening. Yesterday, I heard someone say that we're in a situation today which is called perma-crisis. It's not just crisis, but it's one crisis after another. In fact, one crisis hasn't yet finished, and already there's another one that started. And so it's a permanent state of crisis that the world is struggling through at the moment. And so you don't know when your time is going to come to an end. You don't know when the time for the world is going to come to an end. Baba's not going to tell us. We just have to be ever ready and prepared. And so the preparation is that now I don't waste my time, but I have the controlling power to be able to divert my mind away from anything that's going to be wasteful and use my mind and my time and my talents under Baba's canopy, so that then whatever it is I do, there will be benefit in that. And so let me close with that. Think of all the situations where you thought this is really challenging, really difficult, and yet it's actually been a breakthrough in which something fresh, something new could begin, something that couldn't have happened otherwise. But just this act of being able to recognize the value of what Baba is saying and the value of how it's being given to me by chance, just picking up a leaflet, going to the temple, whatever, just by chance. And of course, to what extent is chance created by us? But that situation in which, yes, truly, I keep moving forward to become complete and perfect. And Baba using this very lovely image of how as Baba came close to his Karmatit stage, you didn't even see the effort Baba was making. Externally, everything was just the same, but internally, Baba's constant attention on the self and changing the transport. And so Baba immediately flew away from the cage. The bird flew away. It left the cage of karmic accounts of the world here. It left the cage of the old body, and the bird flew away. Lovely expression that Baba used twice. And so, am I ready to let the cage door be open? And maybe it's already open, but I'm not seeing it. But definitely, can I make such effort that the cage door opens for me and I can fly home and be with Baba there? But also, I see that it's time for all the major actors from the yagya to be serving now from up above, from the advanced party stage. And so we're left here, but Baba's saying, Baba's invoking you. come children, come quickly, come. And so Baba's saying, do the drill. And the drill, very simple, very sweet. And Baba's child, Baba is the one who called out to me. Baba's the one who is the angel wanting us to fly as angels too. Om Shanti.
Right. Thank you so much, Jayanti. I just want to share a bit, actually, since you talked about crisis, because yesterday we were meeting in Hounslow Center, and today was the Remembrance Day for my Lokik mother. So we were having Bhog, and so my Lokiks were coming there. And so I was on M40, and there was a big accident. So 2 people died and 12 were injured. And then when my brother's coming, then their roads were blocked because there was some terrorists that they were trying to capture. Then my sister was coming on the train, and somebody had fallen onto the track. And so the trains were stopped. And so all of us were experiencing this. It really felt like doomsday. And so my sister left home 1:15. She arrived at 7:30 in Hounslow. And I just want to say how I think as the karmic web gets worse, one person's actions are just going to affect so many people. And it's important to carry food and water and also be warm, because if you're stuck on the motorway, you have to turn off your engine. So you need something warm. So I just wanted to really relay that now, since I had that opportunity. But just to go back to the Murli, gentlemen, so regarding this aspect of waste, we feel that waste is very relative. Now, we understand that having negative thinking or negative actions is definitely waste. And then on the other hand, we also say, well, drama's perfect, so nothing's a waste. But of course, people do judge, this one's wasting their time going for a walk, whereas that one thinks it's absolutely essential for their health. But looking from a spiritual lens, Sister Jayanti, what is the measure of waste?
In terms of my time, in terms of my thoughts, whatever it is that's taking me away from Baba, that is waste. So for example, I'm talking about a situation that involves another person, and it's not my responsibility. It's nothing to do with me, but it keeps interfering in my mind, and I keep interfering on an external level with words when actually there's no need at all. I don't need to be involved in that. Yes, if it was my responsibility, I had to give it attention. But if it's not, then why am I so interested and curious about the ins and outs and ifs and buts and maybes and what about this, what about this, what about this? So on a day-to-day level, there's a huge amount of time and energy being wasted, thoughts being wasted. Your example of the walk. When I go for a walk, am I able to keep Baba with me? And Baba would take the children for a walk every single day. Baba knew that that was the exercise that they needed to be able to keep healthy, especially in the circumstances of a cold mountaintop. And so if they were keeping their blood circulation going with fast walks, it was going to be good for them. But of course, Baba was with them. There was no margin for gossip and chit chat about what happened yesterday or, what's in the newspapers, what's on television, none of that. Just a spiritual exchange. But you can see how the walk can be beneficial, not just for the body, but also for the mind, for the soul. So can I see where is it that I'm absolutely being drawn into wasteful company. Baba mentioned wrong stories of the Ramayana and the Bhagavad. So is that what I'm into? And of course, sometimes we think we're sharing important information, but it's actually gossip. It's not important. Why should you need to know about this thing, and the other thing? Not necessary, but I can't stop myself from talking about it. This happened, that happened, this happened, and so on and so on. So yes, I can have this simple checkpoint. Is it bringing me closer to Baba? Is it taking me away from Baba?
Right, yes, thank you. Thank you so much. The other question was, again, I thought maybe, gentlemen, I don't think we've ever discussed this question, talking about the actual dynamic of worship. And what I mean is, okay, a devotee comes in front of the idol. And so the idol is a stone image, but the person is remembering the idol, whether Lakshmi, Ganesh, whatever. But then is it Shiv Baba that's rewarding the soul? Or who is actually giving them the fruit? Is it the idol's some subtle form, or is it Shiv Baba?
Shiv Baba has categorically stated in the Sakar Murlis that whoever is the image that you love and you feel that connection with is fine, but it's actually God who's giving the fruit of that bhakti, of that devotion and love. It's not the deity, because the deity is now already by then in their Rajo Pradhan stage. They've gone through half the cycle already. And so now they're already in a body conscious state. So they're in no condition to be able to give anyone the return of anything. But in fact, although the Bhagat is remembering this Lakshmi or Narayan or whoever, yet it's actually God who's giving them the reward. And that too depends on the quality of their bhakti. And if it's just the intention to take from God, then that also comes with its karmic due and karmic account. But if it's simply pure love for the deities and for God, then the fortune of that soul is that they will find their way to Baba's home at some point very soon.
Right. And then there was this line in the Murli. It said, you may not sit on the throne, but you should have a right to the kingdom.
Mm-hmm. It's that stage where, like Baba says, even today, this is my land, this is my country. I feel belonging and I can sense that I have a right to be here. Same thing in Satyug, I might not be on the throne, but especially if I'm part of the royal family. And the other day, Baba had mentioned how the royal family together make decisions. It's not just the one individual alone, but they have the whole family with them. And so what is it that I'm doing for myself? Am I creating that state of self-sovereignty today to be able to get that sovereignty in future? Or is it just a little bit that I'm doing? And it's okay, whatever I achieve is fine. I'm ready to accept that, but that's not really intense effort. That's sort of sitting back and watching the drama go by and not participating in the drama.
Right. And then I want to talk about a couple of things from another Murli, recent Murli. And I remember the story of Santri Dadi, where she was so sick in bed. Santri Dadi is Pau's wife, Lokik wife, and Brahma Baba's nephew's wife. And she was so sick in bed for many days. And then one day, Baba just said to her, okay, stand up. And she could, well, earlier she couldn't even turn, but then she stood up and then Baba said, okay, walk straight, walk in that direction. And she just started to walk. And so I wanted to bring up this aspect of Prakruti Jeet, which is master of the elements. And I know you know many stories of the Dadis who have conquered matter or conquered their body or the elements. So could you share a few stories of that?
Daddy Jayanti, when she was last here in 2019, she'd been serving with such a big heart. And just about a week before she was meant to be leaving for Russia, she was out of action completely. There were people who were coming to see her from not just the UK, but there was a couple I remember coming from Casablanca, Morocco, all the way just to be with her and see her. And we took her to her room. We took them to her room, and they were there by her bedside, and she acknowledged them, but she didn't have the energy to actually say anything to them. And they didn't mind. They could see the condition, they could see the situation. And so they just gently met with her through the drishti for a few minutes and then exited. And so that's how sick she was, literally just the day before she was supposed to go to St. Petersburg. And that night, there was a therapist who had come to help her with things. So she had come, and even the therapist said to her, 10 o'clock at night, Daddy, I think you really need to give your body some rest and you won't be able to manage to travel. And Daddy just looked at her and smiled. And the therapist left, and I asked Hansa, do you think Daddy will be able to manage? And Hansa's reply was, well, I don't know. Ask me tomorrow morning at 3 a.m. And sure enough, I didn't go to their room at 3 a.m. I went a bit later, maybe 3:45. And Daddy was sitting there, bright, absolutely fine. And I said, Daddy, you're going? And she said, yes, of course. So how did she make herself well again? Well enough to be able to travel to St. Petersburg with Hansa, but also she had me sit in the car that was taking her to the airport. And then she was just sharing. And she wanted to let me know that she was okay. And she was not just going to Russia just like that, but she was well enough to be going to Russia. And then as soon as she got the other side, they were phoning me and saying, Daddy is great, Daddy is fine. She had a very good journey and so on and so on. And not only did she give me a personal class in the car, but we get to the airport and there's about 30 people from the nearby centres from London at the airport there with her. And they'd come to say goodbye. And I left her with them so that I could sort out the ticketing and luggage, etc. And when I came back, I saw she's holding forth, and there's this big gathering around her, and she's conducting class, and she's absolutely radiant. And so she knew that she had to go to Russia. She'd not been able to go to them 2 times earlier when it was program scheduled, and then something big happened in the yagya, and then she couldn't go. Nobody would let her go. And so she knew that this was, in a sense, her last chance. She was very aware of time, that time is slipping past, and if I don't do something now, when am I going to be able to do it? And so that consciousness made her alert at all times. So that's a story that I won't forget. Another story in terms of conquering matter, Daddy had double pneumonia. Then this was in Mount Abu. And in those days, we didn't have all the facilities downstairs in Shantivan. Now, if somebody had pneumonia, we would immediately have them come to Shantivan because it's always much, much warmer than up the mountain. So this is 1990, December 31st, 1990. So we're just moving into 91, January. And they sent her to Ahmedabad because she can't stay on top of the mountain. So the nearest place to go to was Ahmedabad, and then she knew the doctors there, they would help. So she came to stay there, and she stayed up through the night in Baba's room, and Avyakt Bapdada remembered her, and Avyakt Bapdada spoke a beautiful message about her. And Rosie Ben was leaving Abu the same day. So Rosie Ben brought the message. We used to have something called a TP, a teleprinter. I don't know how these things work, but it churned out reams of paper with everything typed on it. And so Rosie Ben brought this message that had been written by the teleprinter, and she brought it and she read it to Dadi. And Dadi told her she'd been up through the night. She knew that Baba was going to be in Madhuban till midnight gone. And so she decided she would do the same. And next morning, here's Rosie Ben giving her the toli from Baba, reading to her the message that Baba spoke for her. And within a few days, she's well enough to come back to Abu. Now, this woman would have been, how old? In her 80s at that time, 90s maybe. And yet, she's coming back up the mountain once more. And then she's deciding that she wants to stay in Abu. And the question goes to Baba. And Baba says to her, but just your presence in London is enough for the whole wide world. Once they know that you're in London, everybody connects with London. And so Baba is sending you not just for one place, but for the world. And of course, apart from that, the next 10, 20 years were, again, non-stop travel after that even. But to that point, Dadi, double pneumonia, recovering from that, and again, moving on to the service field. So it was amazing to see her recovery and how she was able to do so much, not just through the 90s, but then the next 20 years after that. She passed away 2020. So for 30 years after that scene where the doctors had thought it was touch and go whether she'd survive or not. So she did 30 years more service. And today Baba's saying in the Murli, don't have the thought of leaving your bodies. Yes, be ever ready. But in fact, this is the time to earn fortune. There's never going to be another time to earn fortune in the same way. So that was again a very interesting comment from Baba in Sakar Murli.
Yeah, lovely. And gentlemen, you touched upon the one leaflet. And so actually our whole family came into Gyan because of one leaflet. And it came through the letterbox. So don't undervalue one leaflet. So we'll move over to the chat box, and somebody would like an explanation of today's slogan. Do not look at the expansion, but look at the essence and accommodate it in yourself. This is intense effort.
You and I are engaged in long conversation, and we're getting into many expansions. Now, can I think about it and you think about it also, and we say, can we come down back to the essence about what all this is really about and what we can do further? And so just that statement of, can we come back to the essence, would be a very sweet reminder that getting into the expansion is just going to create hot air and it's going to be a waste of time. But okay, so we've shared all the other things for a moment or a few minutes, but now, what is the essence of all of this? What is it supposed to be teaching me? And take that and merge it in my heart and use it in my life.
Yeah, so you can see why it's intense effort because wasting so much time. And somebody's actually asking about the point about the game within the game. But I was thinking, gentlemen, it's a game within the game within the game, because one is the game within the game, which is the drama, but then it's the game that I'm playing in my mind. So that's another game that's then acted out, and then what is the reality? But anyway, let's hear your explanation of game within the game.
Baba was talking about Dadi all-rounder's departure, of course. And so the whole of the drama is this unlimited game that we're watching and playing our part in. We're participating and creating it at the same time as watching it. So it's incredibly intricate. All of these things are happening all together. So there's this big unlimited game that involves everyone. And then within that game is this game where suddenly Dadi all-rounder flies away. A bit earlier, she'd been participating in the Kumari surrender ceremony, and that was the wedding, the joy, the bliss. They've been wedded to God, and so real happiness. And then immediately after that, the soul flies off. And so normally it would be such a shock to move from an atmosphere of happiness and laughter. And then you get the news. The soul is gone. And then the whole mood changes. There's a different approach. There's different priorities, and you get things sorted out for that. And so within the big game, this little game of suddenly has happened. And then within that game, as a detached observer, I see that it's a game, but I still have to be introverted and focus on my own inner effort. Yes, I have to be there for people who've come to shake hands and go through all the ceremonies and whatever, but internally, I'm detached. We've had 2 amazing Shiv Shaktis in the last week. The first one was Parul. Many of you know her. She's been in Gyan for many years and comes to Madhuban every year, so you see her there. She's been amazing. Her mother passed away, and she was just absolutely strong, and she knew who to connect with. Big family. Her mother was one of 10 siblings. And so many of her sisters, many of her brothers, their spouses, that's immediate family, they were all there. But Parul was the one who was very calmly navigating everything so that everything could happen in the right way at the right time. And it really was a very beautiful scene. And Parul was a Shiv Shakti, she still is. And she says that, there was time when her mother was told only 2 more days max, but it became 4 or 5 days. So she says that period was like a preparation for me. And then we saw that the mother was actually not responding very well to all the treatments. And it was really time to let her go and fly. So they consciously understood that. And everybody who needed to visit had had a chance to see. And so then they decided that it was time to let the soul go. And the other is Bina. And Bina, again, her mother not well over the last month or so, but the last several days, absolutely, it felt as if she was waiting for something. She was ready to go. All the parameters were saying that she should go, but she was still there. 18th evening, she decided to fly. She was consciously waiting for the 18th. And so the soul flew off, and Bina again has been making all the arrangements and everything. And absolutely calm. Another Shiv Shakti. So the game within the game, and then the game of my sanskars. Have I got my sanskars under control? Am I able to rule my sanskars? And if I am, then that's the mirror I look into and I say, thank you, Baba. My future is reassured. And you don't need to know which place you'll take birth or the name of the body. It's knowledge that will, whatever is needed, will come to you. And so this is a time for preparation, so that I know that when the moment comes, I'll fly. I won't be hanging around.
Wow. So, well, the next question is completely left field. But thank you for that. And I agree. Both of them, I've been meeting them, both of them Shiv Shaktis. Yeah, okay. So to change the subject, somebody's asking, is what's in the newspaper, is that gossip?
You see, it's such a big thing. You can spend 2 hours easily just reading stuff. And some of it is gossip, some of it is actual information that's important. So can I be so disciplined that I read what I need to find out about what's going on in the world? I go through the other pages, but I'm totally selective so that I take what it is I want from that paper. Not many are disciplined enough to do that. You pick up the paper, then you read the rubbish together with what is useful. But if I can be completely disciplined, that's important. And the best thing actually is to hear BBC World Service for 3 minutes, and it captures the essence of the world news in 3 minutes. I'm sure there's other radio stations that do that also, but this is the one that I know of, so I mention it by name.
Yes, but it's speculative now. Unbiased BBC is.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure whether this person means young body Brahmins or young as in young in gyan, but they're asking the question basically, gentlemen, how to teach, I think it's young children, how to teach young children yoga. So what do you think could be the few things that we could teach young children, keeping in mind the children's policy, the child abuse policy?
Whatever I do has to be with the parents present, not just with their consent, but with them present so that they feel the atmosphere. And if at any moment they want to change the situation and intervene, they have that authority and right to do so. And so like there's a book called The Star Child, and it was written by Diana Sue. She was in Hong Kong and then Germany and London. So that has lovely stories, and they're like, if you read them to a child, it's like a meditation. But also I think that there's another Sister Manetta who's done a lot of work with kids, and she has lots of different books also. And so that would again be something worth exploring. There are lots of materials available for children now.
Yeah, sorry. And there was the blessing yesterday about being entertaining. And again, it's a fine line, gentlemen, about having like making jokes. And what was it, yesterday or another day? Anyway, somebody's asking about that. Can you just give your take on how to be light, but how not to make jokes?
Being light means really don't carry any burden of anything. And in that state of lightness, you'll be able to smile a lot. You'll be able to inspire those around you with some light, easy, happy comments. And where there's body conscious sanskar of joking, you can feel that Baba's not there. There's no spirituality in that. It really is just heavy, and it's bringing other people down rather than allowing them to get close to Shiv Baba. So I'd say that the benefit of being within a gathering where you're not cut off from the world is that you have access and you can be with company and enjoy that company, but you don't let it become body conscious. A lot of jokes are at the expense of someone else. And so that can cause sorrow. That's I've seen many times. The person will say, I was only joking, but the joke was not in very good taste. Maybe it was about the appearance of the other person. Maybe it was about their locking situation, which is really not nice at all. So is it possible to stay light and easy and be able to share whatever it is that comes to me in an easy way, gyani way, but not to get into expecting that every individual who comes is going to, either be so serious that they're signing everything on the dotted line, or they're so jokey that they keep shifting energy and vibration in the atmosphere. So it's a question of, is it soul conscious lightness? And in that case, just a smile is enough. But okay, it's nice. We had Christmas recently, so jokes and everything, but not at the expense of others. That would be the big thing. So I don't cause sorrow to anyone.
Right, yeah. And Mama Baba didn't like that either. But it just reminded me of another story where Baba would say, play fair. And so when Baba did throw sweets to everyone and say somebody was smart enough to catch many sweets, then Baba would ask them, how many sweets do you have? And if they said they had 5 or 6, then Baba would say, okay, so now you have to share it with others. So he would also play fair in that sense. I just wanted to throw that in. So thank you so much, Sister Jayanti. We wish you a very good trip. You're going to South Africa right now, I think.
Yeah.
And then Sister Jayanti is going to Madhuban. So we'll meet her there or see you from there at some point, I hope.
Okay, surely. There's a question that I've just seen in the chat box, and it was about when relatives don't want to hear any gyan, what should we do? Is it just a waste of time to be with them and whatever? But Baba's asking us to serve through our chehra chalan, our face and our behavior. My behavior, my activity can leave an impact of deep peace and love in the hearts of others if I'm a karma yogi action, but in a state of yoga. And so serve them through your activity, through your character, through your values, through your smile, through your conversations with them. Don't say, oh, they're not going to listen, but find something that's relevant for them and then connect that with Baba. So good luck. And thank you, Aruna. Thank you to everyone.
Thank you.
We'll meet anon. Om Shanti.
Thank you for making the time, Jayanti. Om Shanti.
Just to know you, just to live inside your grace, just to feel you in my heart at this time, in this place. There is peace. every breath as my mind dwells on your name, finding peace, peace within, treasure